Please help me in welcoming Mr. Jose Vasquez.
I was going to introduce myself, but she did most of it. So, like she said, my name is Jose Vasquez. I am originally from Puerto Rico, so that's where you're going to notice the Spanglish. It's going to be a little bit of both. When I'm talking Spanish, most of the time I speak in English. So I always want to warn people of my accent just so they can kind of listen a little closer. Like she said, this is going to be my 15th year with the Texas Rangers as the head strength coach. And I think when I was approached about this talk, I thought to myself, okay, what's the best thing I can do for the students? And I think the best thing I can do is share my story. A lot of the questions that I get is, how did you get to be where you are today? How did you get to be a strength coach? How did you hook up with the Rangers? How did you hook up with whatever? And sometimes for some people, it's a very linear road. For me, it was all over the place. I started out as a baseball player. I wanted to know how to become the best baseball player I could be. So when I was in high school, I got interested in weight training. And so the first thing I would say for anybody is, whatever you're passionate about, you should be reading it, thinking it, meditating on it as much as possible. I was always constantly with a Muscle and Fitness magazine in my hand. Now granted, that was back in the 80s. Muscle and Fitness is for bodybuilders. So kind of forget Muscle and Fitness, but that's just my story. And from there, I just fell in love with weight training. I wanted to know what the body could do. I wanted to know what my body could do. And I went on to play college baseball. First, I went to Central Florida Community College, then transferred on to University of Tennessee, where I played there, became All-America as a baseball player, got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals, played a few years there. And I always had this gap on how to connect the weight training, connect the exercises that I was doing with baseball. Back in those days, strength and conditioning in baseball was non-existent. There was a few guys here and there, but it wasn't there. And one of the things that I quickly realized, because I was studying weight training from Muscle and Fitness, I was getting very big, stiff. I couldn't move. It would take me months to loosen up my shoulder to throw, my swing. So I knew that there was something wrong with what I was doing, but that felt good. You get a little buff, a little muscle tone, you feel good, but it wasn't working. So after I got done playing, I decided, okay, what do I do? I stopped. My bachelor's at the University of Tennessee was in exercise science. And after I was done playing, at that time, again, there wasn't much strength and conditioning, so I decided to pursue physical therapy and went and got a master's degree in physical therapy. Soon after I got out of PT school, I came back I'm from Puerto Rico, grew up in Miami, moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, stayed there for a long time. So after PT school, I went to Knoxville, and I was approached to start coaching travel ball, coaching kids. And after, a few months working in the hospital as a PT, I'm like, man, I don't like this. I don't like working with 30-year-old neck and back pain patients. And so I had a choice to make. So I started to travel, read books. Any author that I read something from, I would call them, travel to their place, go talk to them, learn from them. And I just became a student of strength and conditioning. And I was chasing everybody that I could read about and spending a lot of money doing it. It's expensive to get an education, as you know, but once you get out of here, the education continues. You never stop learning. So I was pursuing pitching biomechanics. I've always been interested in how the body moves. And so we had a baseball camp at the school that I was coaching, and we had a guy named Tom House, who used to be a pitching coach here. He was Nolan Ryan's pitching coach in the time that Nolan Ryan was here. So I met him, and through a conversation we struck up at that clinic. Long story short, I sent him my resume. He forwarded it on to the Mets. A few months later, I did an interview with the Mets, got a job with the Mets. Not the storybook path that most people take, but I really believe that what got me there was my desire to learn, my desire to make myself vulnerable to people that knew more than me, approach people that didn't even know me. And I would call this person, hey, I'm so-and-so. I hear that you do this. I want to learn from you. And that right there is a lesson that I would recommend anyone pursue in whatever career you decide to pursue. Because the minute you stop learning and the minute you stop desiring to learn, that's the minute you're probably going to either be done with whatever you're doing or you're going to stay there and not really make a career out of it. So I got the job, became the assistant strength coach right away. So I was very fortunate to go from not having done any professional baseball straight to the big leagues. Nowadays, most people get internships. They start in A-ball, then AA, AAA, and so on and so on. And now that every major league team has 7 to 8 minor league teams, every minor league team has a full-time guy. Plus, in the big leagues, you have 2 guys for most teams, and then in the minor leagues, in the spring training facility, there's 1 or 2 guys there with the rehab guys and with the young kids that come from the Dominican and the younger levels. So the path that I took was just completely out of the ordinary. But 2 things that stuck out for those guys, looking back when I asked them, what made you guys choose me since I didn't have any experience? I interviewed with 8 other guys, and they all had pro ball experience. And they said the 2 things. Number 1, you pursued this more than all the others, and you played baseball. So that kind of helped. So, and the fact that you're a physical therapist and you had a graduate degree. The other guys just had bachelors, and they had more experience than me. But what stood out to me is that an education is always going to put you ahead of the next guy. Especially in this world of fitness, that everybody's a guru in Instagram and YouTube, and you got all these guys putting all this stuff on the internet. If you check their background, a lot of those people don't even have degrees. They're just athletic. They know how to do a bunch of funky moves, and they're selling stuff. So, but to get a professional job, I feel like a good education is always going to set you apart from the rest of the guys. So having had that, it set me apart, and I got a job that most people dream about. Most people don't even get the way that I got it. And over the time that I've been in the big leagues, I've seen people come from the outside, as I call it, to the big leagues and not last very long. So for me to have had this opportunity and stayed in Major League Baseball for this long, it's been an amazing blessing. I call it a miracle to have had this job for this long, the way that I got it. But you know, when those years that I was looking for education, I would go to things like this. I would hear so-and-so is going to come speak at the NSCA, which, by the way, if you want to be a strength coach and you want to be in college or pro ball, you need to get your CSCS. The NSCA, Strength and Conditioning Association, you need to get that. MLB will not hire you if you don't have your CSCS, just so you know. So I would pursue people in like this, and I would just look for ideas. What does this guy do that I can do right now? Like right now where you're at, hopefully there's one thing that I say today that you can take away and say, you know what, I'm going to apply that today to whatever I'm doing right now. And so I would pursue all these speakers, and I would just look for all the different things that they had. Is this guy a good speaker? Is he a good communicator? Is the work that he's doing interest me? There's a lot of ways that you can go as a strength coach. You can be a rehab type of strength coach. You could be Olympic lifters, power lifters, athletes, and all the different sports have different types of specialties. Football versus baseball versus basketball. There's always a little deviation, but there's plenty of ways that you can take this. And the one thing that I always came away is, always take one thing everywhere I went. I just tried to walk away with one thing that person said, or that speaker said, that I could probably do right now. And for the most part, the one thing that I think that is most important for everybody that is aspiring to be a strength coach, trainer, physical therapist, and stuff like that, is that you have to have a desire to learn. And one of the things that I ask when I interview people, I just went through an interview process trying to hire an assistant, and one of the things that we asked them was, what do you do on a daily basis to get better? When you wake up in the morning, what's your schedule look like? And to make whatever your name is the best version of you. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? So some of the guys, I get up and read the Bible. I get up and do this. I get up and, and that's important, because if you have that self-discipline to self-develop, that you're going to pass that on to your athletes, to the coaches, to whomever you're around. You cannot give what you don't have. Does that make sense? So if you fill yourself up with knowledge, with all those ideas, all those things that you're pursuing, you fill yourself up, then you can give that. Just because you got a degree in whatever degree it is, and you stop studying that, eventually you're going to forget those things. You're going to forget some of the things that you learned at your first year in exercise fitness class, or whatever kinesiology class. That's if you forget it, if you don't review it over and over again. So one of the things that I feel is very important for every high performer is to have a daily routine of, I get up in the morning, I do this, this, and this. For me, when people ask me, what do you do in the morning what is your daily routine? My daily routine is, or the three things that I do, I read the Bible. I always read an article or two about whatever I'm studying, whether it's nutrition, training, and I make sure that my family's okay. I do like a daily checkout, a check-in, inventory of how my family's doing, my wife, my kids, whatever. Those are my three things every day. Some days are longer than others, but I don't feel right when I don't do my routine. One of the things that that is very common with major league athletes, the good ones, and I say like the top level, like the Adrian Beltres, Michael Young, Nolan Ryan, who I got to know pretty well. Those guys had a routine. They do the same things every day. Adrian Beltre, every day he came to the park in the same time. I expected him in the weight room at 3 o'clock. By 3:45, he was out for batting practice, play the game, same thing the next day. Successful people have routines. So always remember that. Successful people always have routines. You can't be all over the place and expect to be successful, because what you measure, you can correct. Imagine if you went to school and you did all this learning and you never got tested. You never took a test, or how do you know if you're learning anything? Well, if you don't take inventory of your life and what your routine is, how do you know if you're getting better? You can't tell if you're getting better if you don't have things to check it against. So, when it comes to education, I feel like, yeah, the degree is important. I think depending on what year you're in, junior, senior, whatever, I really think you should have some sort of an idea where you want to go with this. If you want to go the physical therapy route, you should be taking certain courses. If you want to go the strength coach route, you should be doing certain things. Because when you get out in the real world, there's a lot of competition for this stuff now. Back when I started, there wasn't that many of us. But now everybody wants to be a strength coach for a professional team, or everybody wants to have a CrossFit gym and, all that stuff. There's a lot of competition. So I recommend that you start thinking early which route you want to take so that you can take certain courses, go to certain seminars, contact the people that you see. I say this loosely. On the internet, there's some really good ones. There's some really good names out there of people you should study under. And be lining yourself up with those kind of things. Because I can only speak for myself, but that's kind of what worked for me. I had a desire to be a strength coach. I had a little bit of knowledge. Exercise science prepared me with some things, but I didn't have any practical experience because I was playing. I was still trying to play. So I had to go back and learn how to be a strength coach. Even though I had a master's degree in physical therapy, I had a bachelor's in exercise science, I thought I knew stuff. But I got out there and I was like, man, I don't know stuff. So make sure that what your degree is, in which path you want to take, you're starting to line yourself up for those things. Another thing that I feel like is kind of misunderstood, and sometimes maybe it's not emphasized as much in school, is your ability to communicate. How you speak, how clear you are. You're going to be entering, especially if you're a coach, PT, whatever, you're going to be entering into a world where your words matter. And what you say to a patient or what you say to a player is going to be important, because you're going to have the ones that you tell them, jump off of this bridge, and they'll jump. You're going to have the ones that will say, you know what, who the heck are you? And then you're going to have the guy over here that says, yeah, but my so-and-so told me this. Those are three different kind of scenarios that you're going to have the ability to communicate, to persuade, to convince. That's how you get. The most successful people in the world are those who can communicate. Communicate big ideas to big audiences, to the world, to the countries or whatever, but also can communicate one-on-one to a person and connect with that person and figure out, how am I going to get this guy stronger? How am I going to get this guy to heal faster? That's all in the ability to communicate. And I, for one, have learned that the hard way. English is not my native language, so I've had to work at it over the years, and I continue to do so. I still feel like I can get better at being a communicator, not just for my clients and my players, but for my wife. You're going to have relationships. You got to figure out how to have a good fight. You got to learn how to fight without fighting. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to learn to have that hard conversation with your wife or girlfriend and not walk away like wanting to kill each other. Those things take practice. I promise you, I've lived it. So I'm a big proponent of working on your ability to communicate. Not only would it make you a better professional, but I think it'll make you a better person. I've had the unfortunate situation where we've had to fire people in my line of business because they can't connect with the players. They can't communicate with them. The players won't do anything for them. Good education, best workout cards in the world. Shiny T-Barbell logo all over the workout card, but couldn't get guys to do stuff because they hated the way that he acted and whatever. So I've seen that. So it's a real thing. One of the things that I've walked away with I read a lot of books, a lot of different topics, and last probably 5 years I've been reading a lot of negotiation books because I realized that every conversation is a negotiation. I remember I had one pitcher who I love and hate at the same time. Every time he had to work out, it was a negotiation. Hey man, you got 10 sprints today. No, I want to do 6. No, 8. No, 7. Okay, 7. Go. Get out of here. Every day was a negotiation. And that's a dumb example, but really, everything you're going to do in your life is you're going to have to negotiate for stuff. And as a coach, PT, trainer, whatever, the product you're selling is you. You got to learn how to sell yourself. And that starts with your ability to communicate. Second thing when it comes to communication too is appearance. I'm big on appearance. When whatever you're doing, you better look the part. If you're going to work out with somebody, of course, wear your shorts, your t-shirt, you're not going to show up in khakis. But you got a job interview, have your suit, have your tie. Appearance is huge. One of the things I remember back then in 2001 when I went to interview for the Mets job, I showed up in a leather jacket and a turtleneck and jeans. It's amazing he's still around, but not in the big leagues, but he's still around. But I remember the trainers that interviewed me making fun of him. So your appearance, your professional appearance matters. Don't take that for granted. I fight that with my daughter sometimes. Well, they don't love me. They don't love me for me. Okay, fine. All you're doing is shrinking the pool of people that might like you. Simple. If you look good, you look the part. Oh man, let me check it out, man. This guy's serious. He got a nice suit, nice cut, nice tie. Oh dang, he went to this school? Okay, he's done these things? Dang, this good package. It's competitive out there. So these are all things that matter. Trying to remember some of the things that I brought in that article, but I want to make sure that I cover a few things. How to get your foot in the door. I've kind of mentioned that a little bit. Read as much as you can and contact as many people as you can. You'll be surprised. This is something that always got me that I couldn't believe that some of these people would take my phone call. You'll be surprised how many people in this business, if you call them, hey, I'm so-and-so and I want to learn what you do. Yeah, man, come over. I used to think that, oh man, I read that guy's book and he's famous and stuff. Most people in our business want to teach. Me, I want to teach. I want to talk to you. I want to tell you what I've learned. Because I don't get up in the morning and read the Bible and read all these articles and stuff like that to not share that. I'm pouring that stuff in me because I want to share it with you. So be proactive. Get out there. Go talk to people. Every one of those guys wants to teach. They want to teach. And you'd be surprised how many people do it for free too. I've been blown away by so many times. I call somebody, hey man, I want to learn what you do. Now I'm in a position where I got a little bit more money and a budget. Hey man, can you come and talk to our guys about your stuff? Sure man, just pay my plane ticket and feed me. Cool, I can do that. So don't be afraid to call on those people that you consider someone that can teach you something. They're dying. They're dying to teach you stuff. They're dying to share that stuff. Education, communication, appearance, all those things can be worked on. One of the things that I'm always finding out, and as I get older, I realize, dang, that's a lot of things. Because I used to think that the only thing that really worked was working out. Because I knew that if I worked out, my body got stronger. And so that stuff made sense to me. But I figured the other things would just come natural. My ability to teach, my ability to talk, my relationships, my interviews, my professional connections. I thought those things would just happen. I was wrong. I'm here still, I think, because I've pursued the other things. I know about a strength and conditioning as much as I need to know. I mean, I can put a workout together and stuff like that. But I realized that the other parts of me are the ones that need to work. Communication, delivery of the message, the timing of the message, all those things matter in every area of your life. And it has taken a lot of years and a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of books, talking to experts on the matter. And I honestly believe that that's the one thing that has set me apart as I had more years of experience in the game. At the beginning, I got it mostly because of my education and background, but as I grew in my job, I believe it's some of those things. And some of the things that have opened up for me in those areas is I've been sent sometimes to go visit a player that we're trying to sign. Strength coaches don't do that. Strength coaches are in the weight room. I've gone to meetings with owners and general managers to go sign a player at his house because they value my opinion. They value the way that I think, not because I know how to squat. So I've seen how my efforts in that part of my life has opened up opportunities for me that most strength coaches don't get to do. And when I talk to my colleagues every winter, and they're like, "What'd you do this winter?" "Well, I went to go visit there because we were trying to sign so-and-so." And like, "Dang, did you do that?" Like, "Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, they asked me, so I said yes." So I try to think that perhaps the way I think, communicate, maybe I have something to offer, but that took time. That took time and effort on my part to become a better communicator. All those things that I've just said, I mean, I can go on and give you examples and things, but for me, the more important things that I've come across that I could tell you, that I could say, you know what, focus on this. Finish your degree, pursue your passion, and learn to communicate. And all those things take work. And I guess the disclaimer to all of these things is that it's going to be difficult, and you're going to have to learn to be okay with difficult. You're going to have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're going to be rejected. There are going to be people that are not going to do what you want. You're going to apply for jobs that you're not going to get. You're going to say the wrong thing at the right time or the wrong time. Stuff is going to happen. But if you have your values set, this is what I'm pursuing, then you're going to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what life is all about, is learning how to be uncomfortable as you pursue your dreams, as you pursue your career, your relationships, your personal fitness. Everybody that works out knows that not every exercise is going to work. Just because you run every day, that doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. There's a bunch of other stuff to do. Just because you stretch doesn't mean you're going to get flexible, because there's a bunch of other stuff to do. So I believe that there's a lot of parallels between the fitness world and real life, because it requires hard work, pain, sweat, difficulty, failure. And if you take those principles that you're learning in the weight room and you apply those to life, you'll find that there's a lot of correlations to what you do on a regular basis. Let's throw some questions. I could talk about these things forever. I'll answer it this way. The guy that we hired him for 3 reasons. He had the education, He had the experience in areas that I was looking for, and he was personable. He had the best personality out of the group. He communicated his ideas better. He was confident. He delivered his ideas clearly. He wasn't one of those guys that you ask him, okay, so what's your philosophy in strength and conditioning? Well, some days I do squats, and then, and no, man, I believe in strength and power, and this is what I do because this is what I believe in. Cool. How you deliver a message means a lot. And in this world where everybody has degrees, how are you going to separate yourself? I really believe it's going to be in the personal communication and side. Did you hear the question? Like, if I'm dealing with a coach that wants me to train my players a certain way, which goes against what I believe, guess what that goes down to? Negotiation. I have to go with that coach and say, okay, explain to me, these are the things that I've discovered. Because when I was young, I would get pissed. I'd get mad, and we'd argue and huff and puff, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But as I got older, I realized, you know what? He's got experiences that I don't. He's got a perception that is different than mine. How can I connect these two and come up with a solution? So what I always say is, explain to me why you feel that's the way that we should train the guys. And after I let them talk, then most times than not, I try to have a scientific reason why I do that. So if the guy says to me, for me, baseball players are strength and power athletes. And he says, we need to be running 3 miles. Well, running 3 miles is not a strength and power conditioning drill. So the research says that when you develop a program, you got to look for the specific demands of the sport, right? So when I tell a guy to run for 30 minutes, where in baseball do we run distance? No, everything is short burst. Every 15 seconds, the pitcher throws, and it's explode, stop, explode, stop. That's my explanation. It's not as clean, but at least honestly, those relationships are mostly up to me. I'm the one that has to diffuse the situation, because if you do a good job of explaining the science, usually they come around. So if you learn how to discuss it without bringing your feelings into it, more times than not, I found that I get my way. So it's gotten better over the years. When I was younger, it was a lot more yelling. And like I've always been one that liked fighting. So I don't back away from a fight. So that I've had to learn that my temper is not going to get me anywhere. My education and my ability to reason and communicate is what's going to get me further along. For me, I think a combination of strength and conditioning and physical therapy is a beautiful thing. Because what you get from physical therapy is the evaluation skills. Physical therapists, we evaluate movement. We evaluate angles, forces. In strength and conditioning, you evaluate the body from the physiology part. What does 3 sets of 10 do to the body? And you combine your ability to assess with the ability to train, it's a beautiful marriage. And that's what I found, and that's why I think set me apart too when I first got that job, is that I was a physical therapist. And back in the day, athletic trainers were terrified of strength coaches because they didn't want any meatheads working with the baseball players. So physical therapy gives you an advantage, in my opinion. You see the body move differently. As a strength coach, you know how to design workouts and all kinds of things, but you're not as strong as the evaluation. But the physical therapy gives you a set of skills that you don't get as a strength coach. That's always been my recommendation for those who are kind of trying to navigate that stuff. In professional sports, the athletic trainer has a higher ceiling than in the private world. In the private world, the PT has a higher ceiling because insurance pays for PT, not ATC. But in the professional sports, the ATC has a higher ceiling. Again, it goes back to your ability to communicate and connect. The majority of the reasons why players are difficult to work with is because they're insecure and they're afraid. especially when they get hurt, right away they start going into is my career over? Am I going to be able to throw again? Am I going to be able to run again? So you got to address that fear. And once you figure out why is he afraid, where is this fear coming from, once you address that, then you can evaluate the program, evaluate whatever he's doing or has been doing, and then you go from there. But I feel like I've again, through experience, because before it's like, come on, man, let's go. Come on, man, don't be a wuss. It was that kind of thing. But eventually I realized, you know what, this guy's afraid. He's afraid his career is over. Even though in big league baseball, Major League Baseball, you get paid anyways, but still, they still want to play. But yeah, I just addressed the fear, because I know after being with so many good athletes, good and bad, and they're all scared, somewhat others. In my opinion, I would always consider PT, ATC, strength coach in nutrition. All those four, you kind of stay in that general area. I think if you're a fitness person, you're going to be pretty happy. Those four careers are going to expose you and you to work with athletes and do what you want to do. So, does that answer your question? Okay. You know, I've had this argument with my daughter about where she's going to school when she wants to be a strength coach. I was like, a lot of my colleagues, when I ask them where they go to school, I was like, where is that? You know, so I know people that have been in the big leagues for a lot of years, and I never even heard of their college. So I'm not saying that education is not important, but it's certainly not the only thing. If you go to a D3 school that has a good strength and conditioning program, and you've had some good work experience with that should be sufficient. I mean, University of Tennessee, when I went, was not well known for strength and conditioning, so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story.